Look, thanks for coming to the show. We wanted to have you on because we want to understand how real-time asset intelligence helps logistic companies make faster, smarter, and more autonomous operating decisions. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about, am I pronouncing this right? Hoopo?
Yes, that is perfectly right.
Before we jump in, yeah. And did I pronounce your first name right? Ittay?
Ittay is my first name, but you can call me Ty if that makes your life easier.
It's not a problem for me at all. Ittay, okay. Go ahead.
Great. Hoopo is one of the world's largest provider of fleet tracking and fleet intelligence solutions. We are about 55 people manufacturing and delivering tens of thousands of devices each month. Our devices have a battery that can last for more than 12 years, making it very, very cost efficient for scale and fleet. Some of the largest fleets in the world are using us to convert their assets from trailers to airport equipment to containers into a smart fleet. And we don't just track the location, but we know the status of the containers, the door being open or closed, was there damage to a cargo? And we create this data in order to become the leading data layer for autonomous operations, as you mentioned earlier on.
Yeah, can we just run through this in a little bit more detail? Because this is kind of fascinating for me. So you're a device builder as well, yeah? There's a software sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, sure. We're a hardware-enabled SaaS business. So basically, for containers, we offer this device. It's a solar-powered device that goes on each container within the corrugations behind the lock bars. It can run for 12 to 15 years autonomously. We have unique combination of laser sensors and light sensors that detect the movements of the door and determine the status of the container. We integrate the data coming live from the container whenever it moves, while it's on the move, when someone does something that they shouldn't do, and we connect it to a contextual layer and an alert engine that gives real-time insights to our customers, from exception management to predicting inventory levels in a month.
Sorry, I'm thinking about what this looks like. So you have that box, it sits on the outside of the container, yeah?
That is true. So every dry box, and again, all we do is unpowered assets. With a powered asset like a truck, you can easily connect to the battery.
You have telematics and stuff, that's simple, yeah? Relatively
Exactly.
Yeah?
But when you talk about fleets that operate tens of thousands up to millions of assets, you have to have something that is rugged, reliable, long-lasting, and mainly affordable. So a device that is extremely affordable goes on the door of the container, 2-minute installation with 2 rivets. And from that moment on, this iron cage that is basically a container becomes a smart asset that is delivering real-time valuable data to our customers.
So let's simplify this, if you don't mind. I like to make things simple so people can get a better understanding. Let's say I'm a logistics provider. I'm a 3PL. And I have 10 of these devices on the back of my truck. So each one of the trucks has and let's just call it trucks because it's just easier for people to understand.
Sure.
Each one of the trucks has one of these devices on the back, yeah? And that device monitors what's happening on that, you said, that metal cage, inside of which is all this kind of stuff. It could be delivery stuff. It could be anything, right?
Yeah, listen, 80% of finished goods moving containers.
Yeah, for sure.
These assets are owned by the largest shipping lines and carriers in the world. And the minute the container leaves the terminal, let's say the port, you basically lose sight of it. This is a blind spot to you because the entire supply chain is extremely siloed and fragmented. So you may have, 3PLs, third-party trucking companies, drayage companies. They're all interacting with your assets, the asset you're charging for, but you have no clue what's going on with it. And this is what we're changing.
So what kind of data does that box actually transfer? And how does it transfer it back? And the other thing is, again, if I have 10 trucks in my 3PL, small company, yeah? Sure. I'm a big thinker, but I'm starting small here. Do those devices communicate with each other as well? Right? Let's say these 2 trucks are going to the same place, or they're going to a different place, or they're going to meet later, or there are multiple places that are going to get delivered. Do those devices communicate with each other? And is that obvious from, I presume there's a desktop app or some kind of dashboard or something to which it's sending information? What type of information am I getting about that box? Not the box on the back, but the container itself? And are they communicating with each other as well?
So the answer to your questions are all yes. The data that is coming out of the asset that we're tracking, whether again it's a truck, a container, a drive-in, or any other kind of asset, is location, temperature alerts. We prevent fires in containers, which is a huge hazard today in global supply chain. We know shock events or impact. We know tilt. If we're tracking waste containers, we can even confirm where the trash was disposed of. And as I said before, we track the door status and some other features as well. Now, we work with some of the largest chassis companies in the US market. So the trailers that collect the containers from the port.
Right.
Some of the biggest challenges is that when you board the container to a trailer and now you're tracking the trailer, sometimes people get it wrong. You might have the wrong container on this trailer and you're expecting a delivery and then it arrives, but it's not really what you were hoping for. So we can also match.
How does that happen?
Well, it happens because we're here to talk about AI, but eventually in global supply chain, I don't see just an AI implementation problem. I see a Bob implementation problem, because Bob, who's working in a rail yard somewhere in the middle state in the US, his job is to get things moving quickly. And if he misses a number on a container when he reports through the ADI, no one's going to fire him. No one even knows who he is. So there are a lot of challenges to get real-time yet accurate data in global supply chains today. And this is kind of what we're trying to solve.
What happens when a company installs this box on the back of their containers? What changes operationally? Like what sort of better outcomes do they have? And is it obvious to them that, like, whoa, this is way more efficient, we should have been doing this forever, kind of thing? Do you know what I mean?
For sure. I'm going to quote the COO of one of the largest trailer leasing companies in the US,
Okay.
who's been our customer for more than 4 years now. A month into our first initial pilots, he said, well, we didn't know what we didn't know. And I know it kind of sounds, simple, but this is the truth. Yeah. So you can, as you just said, they envision a lot of value coming from improved utilization, from using the asset and doing more turnarounds, because this is what they basically make money for. So cost per mileage, revenue per cycle, this is what we're improving. But then once you start digitizing your whole organization, and again, we're talking about the largest fleets in the world, you learn that there are so many other revenue opportunities. We prevent fires, which, again, believe it or not, once every 2 months, this container goes on fire on a vessel, and you detect it too late to be able to handle it. So you just let it consume several containers with millions of dollars worth of cargo. Right. But also, don't just think about what you prevent from happening to the cargo. You're also preventing things like illicit trade. Believe it or not, 80% of cocaine is being smuggled into Europe within containers, according to the European Union. And we work with the European Union to incentivize those, smart assets being imported into Europe, so that we can, send the customs people to the right direction and allow them not to waste time on unnecessary containers.
Where does agentic AI come in here, right? Because if you're getting all this data and you have the ability for some of the trucking and or some of the 3PL companies to start making autonomous decisions, what does that look like? And what structure is that data coming in so that at least at some level, some decisions can be made autonomously? Not all of them, but where does agentic AI get deployed, and why does that matter? How does it help?
A lot of the tasks in global supply chain are just coordination tasks or exception management. Now, the challenge is that, unlike the example I gave you, it's not so straightforward where the context and the data is located. If you want to start trusting AI, then you need to understand that AI is only as good as the data that it has.
Sure.
And I think we're only now seeing the big fleets of the world creating this first data layer that is accurate enough to start relying on. Because if you want to start calling truck drivers and telling them to go in different routes, you better make sure that they are carrying the right container first. If you move from the 3PLs or the freight forwarders, again, to the fleets that basically move global trade, you're talking about movements from mainly the east to the west of the world.
Fair enough.
You're talking about importing, 10 full containers on every one container that you send back to export. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being wasted on moving empty containers. But the optimization of global supply chain can not only create a much more sustainable world, it can create a much more profitable organization that is currently running on Excel files and huge inefficiencies. So we're looking at AI, and I think Gartner said that, by 2030, 70% of those coordination tasks will be fully agentic. Now, whether they are right or wrong about the 70%, I don't know. But they're definitely right that there is a lot of value in starting to automate those stuff. The more people discover the capabilities and start automating stuff, the more data that they want in. So just so you know, within our device, we have a unique Bluetooth antenna that covers the container from within. So if someone transports cotton or coffee beans and they want to have humidity sensors, they can just throw them in a container and they will communicate with our access point. So basically, again, the container becomes a smart one. So you can always keep on adding more and more stuff.
So that was the other thing I was going to ask you. So thank you for segueing really nicely for me. If I'm a forward-thinking 3PL, I'm just going to use 3PL as a catch-all, if that's okay,
Sure.
just because it's easy to say and you understand what it means and the listeners and viewers understand what it means as well. But if I'm a forward-thinking 3PL, the containers that I put inside of your metal case are also going to have sensors on them. And I can buy those sensors through the supply chain in China probably very cheaply, whether it's IoT stuff, whether it's Bluetooth or it's NFC chips, like whatever it is. How closely do you work together with those teams to say, like as you said, now that we have these devices inside, and it can actually be inside the inside box, what other data can we then use to make that dashboard that we have and the software that you're building to monitor that even better? How closely do you work with those guys to do that?
We are already there. And stickers, Bluetooth stickers that you can buy off the shelf or from different startup companies can start communicating with our device and create full real-time visibility for whether the cargo is truly there. When the trucker unloads cargo in LTL shipments, less than truckload, there may be mistakes done. And it takes sometimes a month to figure out where the box was left. And by that time, you file insurance claims and you start calling people. That can all be automated within months to a couple of years.
And can I ask you one more thing? Because we talked about insurance, but again, how closely are you working with the insurance company as well to say our ability at Hoopo to disintermediate fraud because of all the tracking that we're doing and the efficiencies that we give these companies so that they actually know, just for, if nothing else, that the cargo inside of the container is the cargo that's supposed to be inside the container. How close are you working with the insurance companies to say premium should be lower, payout should be fat? Do you know what I mean? To like automate this stuff in a way that maybe the insurance even gets paid faster and it's cheaper.
By the end of this year, there will be some insurance classifiers for global freight that will be reducing premiums for smart containers. And we are working closely with them and experimenting on different stuff to prove the value of this data.